In our eyes, wild animals will always have a certain element of mystery. Some of them have an unpleasant reputation. Magicians and witches turned them into evil spirits. But reality contradicts these beliefs. Filmed in the wild without any gimmicks, these notorious or unloved animals are simply magnificent. The first morning mists appear in the woods and rivers. Autumn isn't far behind. At this time of year, legends say the forest is shrouded in mystery and hides all kinds of evil spells. In truth, it encourages one of its most discreet guests to break its reserve. For the moment, we can't hear this great loner yet, and we can barely see it. Its majestic crown reveals its presence, and that's what makes it so imposing. This king of the forest, who seems to embody power and virility, has always been hunted down by man. What's it blamed for? Its taste for young shoots and tree bark. Undoubtedly a pretext to justify hunting it. Its antlers truly make a magnificent trophy. It has long adorned the shields of the rulers who, for that matter, reserved the privilege of shooting it down. This large animal that can weigh 250 kilos is very impressive, but it's secretive and fearful, and flees at the slightest suspicious noise. In St. Croix Park, Pierre Sanjar observes deer all year round. He clearly understands their uniqueness.
Stags live alone. The older they are, the more like a ghost in the forest they are. They're alert to the slightest noise, always on their guard, which is what makes this animal so exciting.
Fascinated perhaps by his presence, man both admires and envies the stag. Hence the many legends that attribute demonic powers to it, and sometimes even enviable virtues.
The power of this voice. It's that of a male ready for battle. Just yesterday, he was still a young fawn. And now, he's the king of this forest, a king wearing a crown. Its branches, resembling those of a tree, make it a symbol of life, longevity, and rebirth. Its antlers must have supernatural powers. Healers use them as aphrodisiacs, ointments to heal wounds, panaceas against spells. But here's another figure. The stag Furfur, who first appeared in the 19th century in a book on demonology. Furfur the Furious, capable of stirring up all the legions of hell to call the devastating fire to his rescue. He wants to defeat the King Deer. The dark forces have lost. Furfur returns to his shadows, and the king of the forest keeps his throne.
In our forest, in solitude, the stag wait for the greatest event of the year, the bellowing season. Another secluded and furtive inhabitant is active in the forests, even in the coldest winter. Usually, you hear it long before you see it. Once the forest has been covered with snow, it's easier to spot. His work betrays it. At the foot of his tree, the chips pile up. It's a black woodpecker. This male is carving a box to shelter his future nest. Not far away, a female watches him. If the male succeeds in seducing her with his building skills, if the future nest suits her, she might even take him as her partner. The male chose a healthy and dry tree to avoid wood diseases and rainwater infiltration that would compromise the survival of the chicks. Claude Maurice, who watches the black woodpecker, lives at the gates of this great bird's estate, a preserved forest in the Vosges Mountains. The black woodpecker likes the mountains, but its range now extends much further west, increasing each year.
I've tried to make students love nature throughout my career as a teacher, and it works well with children. But once you get older, you start being afraid of anything. We're not afraid of what's needed. We're afraid of what's not a problem. The raven is black, the cormorant is black, the blackbirds, the black cats, the black bugs, witches are black at night.
This bird, which makes strange cries, has long been viewed with suspicion. Its plumage is black like the raven's, and in our societies, black is the color of death. From there, it only has a step to associate the woodpecker with witches.
Not only is he black and wearing a blood-red cap, but he's noisy. This drumming, doesn't it sound like the noise the witches make on their Sabbaths? One of them once turned into a black woodpecker and began to haunt some of the trees in the forest. A real pair of woodpeckers wanted to make their home in one of these trees, but the witch cast a spell on it. The bird couple who had gone away for a few moments found a very unpleasant surprise when they returned. The entrance to their lodge is covered with a grid. The male can drum like a moving Roman army, but he can't get into his lodge. To be released from the curse, he must find a martagon lily. One petal is enough to blow off the grid. The pair returns to their lodge. In the human imagination, this bird was in turn evil and a victim of evil spells, but always a remarkable architect.
I think that's an interesting thing.
This one piece will make 52 layers.
Watch on mobile devices or the big screen. All for free. No subscription required.
The Vosges offers a rich terrain for naturalists to study. Jan Leversel has been passionate about badgers since the age of 22.
Everyone knows the name badger, the word badger, often in a pejorative way. For example, to say that someone is badgering you. No one actually knows the animal itself. If you ask people on the street, no one actually knows what badgers do.
The badger is nevertheless a fascinating animal, and Jan will help us discover its secret life. We meet these builders at the edge of the forest. The construction site is underground. Badgers go out at the end of the day and start on the earthworks again. Digging the ground, clearing the ground, digging again. They're constantly expanding their underground domain. Their burrow is a remarkable labyrinth. Galleries on several floors leading to 10, 20, sometimes even 50 different exits. Badgers often dig smaller burrows, which serve as a second home. Men have invented many ways to hunt badgers in their galleries, because they cause too much damage to crops and can carry diseases. And the badger is an elusive creature who only comes out at night. That's all it took to ignite the imagination. Since the Middle Ages, its nocturnal habits have been associated with some evil doings. Then you do whatever it takes to get rid of it.
A curious growl. Clawed paw prints. And voila! He waited until nightfall to leave his burrow like a masked bandit. He's not alone. There's a whole clan of evil creatures there. Poor. They engage in strange rituals. They stink. And they're greedy. They eat whatever they come across, plant or animal. Worse, they go in commandos to loot the nests. But the worst and most worrying thing is what they do underground. They dig tunnels to reach the underworld, or laze around. We'll get the hunters to kill these filthy beasts. We're going to skewer them, smoke them out. With claws and teeth, the bandits attack the dogs and try to escape. But we're better hunters, and we'll bring them out of the depths of the earth where they plot with the occult forces. We'll make boots from their fur. With their fat, concoctions against rheumatism. And this is how, by inventing 1,001 defects, men got into the habit of tracking badgers. Fortunately, their ingenious work as a digger saved many lives, and still saves more.
It's a dirty beast by default. It was classified as harmful. And in those days, they meant stinking. There's a belief in the hunting world that badgers are a dirty beast. But a hunter won't really be able to tell you why.
Spring urges birds to make their nests with mosses, lichens, twigs. The black woodpecker isn't content with a plant mattress. He wants his nest solid, deep, safe. He digs it with the force of his beak. He's been at work for weeks. In this box, perched 15 meters above the ground, its young will be protected from predators. The female seems definitively conquered. She'll stay close to the nest until the day she moves in. From time to time, she'll examine the site more closely.
This pecker is fascinating because it's the biggest, the heaviest. You can hear it hitting a tree. It's really a powerful bird. He's very shy. He doesn't like to be disturbed. Here he is in his environment, at home.
The green woodpecker also digs a cavity. He's returned to it several years in a row. The black woodpecker prefers to relocate almost every year to avoid being spotted by predators. His cabin gets put to good use, though. Other forest dwellers, like the Tengmalm's owl, will gladly occupy it. The woodpecker is what's called an umbrella species, an animal whose ecological niche allows many others to live or reproduce safely. Squirrels are among the forest dwellers who benefit from the lodges abandoned by the largest of the woodpeckers. Some birds haven't made their nests yet, and time is running out. They wouldn't mind squatting in this brand new cavity, but it's already occupied and well defended. Always on the alert, on the lookout for the slightest intruder, the woodpecker won't let anyone settle here. So here it is. The nest is ready for the female, and the male is finally available for breeding time. Everywhere in nature, seduction can be a big part of reproduction. At the end of the summer, after weeks of solitude, the deer is ready for the big action. He uses all the power of his vocal cords to demarcate his territory. He snorts. He sniffs the air to find the olfactory trail of females in heat. With this brief and hoarse cry, he affirms his presence. The message, bursting with testosterone, is addressed to other males in the area. Because he's not alone in this war of conquest. Other contenders are on the lookout. Everyone is sure they'll soon be the chosen one, the dominant one, the glorious seducer. However, there will only be one winner, a single master of all he placed to honor all the deer in the herd. In St. Croix Park, the transformation of this solitary animal into a rutting stag is being studied.
The deer is going to transform. He'll go from a total lack of interest in sexuality to a total obsession. He goes crazy, totally obsessed with one thing, finding females. We always see the stag like the prince in the middle of his harem, surrounded by females doing his bidding. In fact, totally the opposite. Stags live in groups of single individuals, alone. They have no contact with females, so he'll go sniffing in search of the right smell, namely the smell of the female. The rest of the year, he has no voice. It's only now that he can make a bellow, a very powerful sound. It's really an expression of frustration. He bellows to express his frustration, to impress other males, and not to impress other females, as in popular history. On the contrary, they're rather disturbed. They'll only find it interesting when they're at the height of their heat.
He'll have to wait for the signal, the smell emitted by does when they're sexually receptive.
It's a heavily populated forest. There are a lot of birds of different species. This is a short-toed tree creeper, and he defends his territory by keeping out all the other males in the area. That's why he sings to birds, especially those that are territorial. I'm home, go away. To all those competitors who want to settle down. That's why he rehearses his singing, especially in the early morning. For the last 15 days, the black woodpecker has been singing constantly. He drummed against a dry branch that resonated well. It's really exciting.
The black woodpecker chooses very dry trunks for maximum resonance. His percussions carry more than a kilometre. Under the forest vault, the symphony of birds in love rises in tone. The games of seduction have begun. To please his beauty, the kingfisher brings her an offering. After drumming on and on, the black woodpecker continues its parade. He was obviously convincing. Among deer, the breeding season drags on. In mid-autumn, this male, infused with desire, is still waiting for the does to show their willingness. He no longer eats, drinks very little, remains focused on his only aim, to reproduce. To calm his fervour, he ploughs the vegetation with great blows of his antlers. He's in agony. Younger stags also burn with rutting fever, but with no hope of reproducing before the age of 5 or 6. If deer need to show up and be heard, it's the opposite for badgers. Jan Lebersel has identified an observation site from which he can sometimes film and photograph badgers. He is very careful not to get into the wind. The badgers would smell it immediately.
We don't see them every day. Even if we go there regularly, it's very stealthy. It comes out of its burrow and leaves. For many animals, like foxes, there is a certain emotion when you see a badger coming out of its burrow. I don't know if we have any communication with the badgers. Sometimes, when we're on the lookout, I feel like the badgers know we're here. They're looking at us. They will occupy a lot of the land beyond us. There are behaviors that give me this feeling. It's not scientific. It's an impression that the badgers know that we're there and that we film them without disturbing them.
Their poor eyesight is compensated by excellent hearing and a competitive sense of smell. The slightest noise, the slightest suspicious smell makes them go underground. At night, anything dangerous is sleeping. So are the hunters. That's why badgers prefer to go out in the moonlight to inspect their territory, hunt earthworms, or quench their thirst. In addition to earthworms, insects, and larvae, they eat a wide variety of plants and fruits. Sometimes they also eat frogs, mollusks, and young mice in the nest. Males often venture into the plain with determination. They go in search of another forest, a new home, a new partner. This change of address isn't just a whim. It provides the genetic mixing that's needed to limit inbreeding. This male has already visited a group of badgers living on the other side of the plain. He easily finds his way back. He finds a female there. It takes them a few minutes to recognize each other. Finally, the courting is done. The male leaves quickly. The female then harvests mosses and dead leaves that will be used to line the underground chambers of the burrow. Animals that prefer life in the open air prefer to live in dead tree trunks. The holes in this old birch tree interest a black woodpecker. Only one of these duplexes is already occupied by squirrels. They're obviously not happy with the arrival of this flying tenant. But even though it's not malicious, the woodpecker is stubborn. Trees that naturally die standing are called candles. Larvae and carpenter ants enjoy this soft wood and accelerate its decomposition.
This is a forest on a southern slope, on a great slope abandoned by man. It's a wild forest with a lot of trees dying that we leave to die where they stand. It's a living forest. Who dies and who lives.
Le pic s'installe avec ses... Il a deux doigts devant, deux doigts derrière, et il s'accroche contre le...
The woodpecker clings to the trunk and progresses by resting on its tail. It makes a strong impact with its beak and puts its long, sticky tongue into the holes and hooks the insects to eat them. It splits the bark into pieces. Chips are found everywhere. That's how we detect its presence. When you see it tapping, it's really fascinating. Not everyone sees it. You have to look for it, or be very lucky.
The black woodpecker perceives the slightest movement of thousands of insects hidden under the bark. With its solid beak, it exposes the stumps and traps ants with its long and sticky tongue. With spring, thousands of insects emerge, manna for the young birds that have just hatched. In the black woodpecker's lodge, 3 little ones are clamoring. The male and female take turns supplying them. They regurgitate a very thick insect gruel into the back of each little throat. Thanks to this intensive feeding, the young woodpeckers grow quickly. At the end of May, they're less than a month old and are already ready to take off. The precociousness of the young black woodpeckers enables their parents to raise a second clutch. A first candidate wants to try flying, not realizing that it's make or break. First, it examines this unknown world, vast, dazzling with light, and full of dangers, no doubt. Quite the opposite of the lodge. He still hesitates. His parents encourage him with their screams and drumming. The black woodpecker lives in the world up above, the upper floors of the forest. The world below is the world of badgers. They sometimes go out in broad daylight, but with the greatest of caution. Before going any further, they always sniff the air around them. The young ones were born in this burrow. They're not allowed to leave their rooms yet. Will this beautiful spring day be a good time for their first outing? First of all, the badger gets rid of the dry soil embedded in its coat. Second priority, shaking out its fleas and itchy lice constantly. The badger isn't just a bag of parasites. Mindful of his hygiene, he dug latrines outside the burrow or in a separate gallery. For a long time, we thought the badger was solitary, which made it even more diabolical in the eyes of its critics. In fact, it lives in clans, usually of 3 or 4 individuals. They delouse each other, chew each other, scratch each other. Grooming is done in groups. More than mutual help, it's a way to reconnect and build relationships. About 2 months after their birth, the little badgers emerge from the burrow. They now have a coat thick enough to withstand the cold of the night. They grew up on a cozy little space, warmed by their mother's presence. The 2 white stripes are already clearly visible on their snout, and they look like smaller versions of their parents. Their mother still suckles them and regurgitates food for them. This first outing will be educational. Lesson number 1 is in the form of a game. The mother hides a worm. She wants to train her babies to find their own food. This apprenticeship, which is essential for them to become independent, will last almost 2 months. To signal their membership in the clan, badgers mark each other and mark their domain with the same fragrant secretions. The markings deposited here and there are a means of communication between badgers. The clan lives peacefully. No leader, no power struggle. Life is sweet for badgers. The little ones tumble, jostle, chew each other. It's the age for playing. play, but never far from the burrow in case they need to go underground quickly if there's any danger. In summer, badgers sometimes sleep outside the burrow. It's not easy to surprise them in their nights under the stars. Let's leave them to their dreams and move a few weeks forward in the calendar to see what the deer are up to.
Les femelles vivent en harde.
Females live in
Donc
herds.
elles forment un groupe.
They form a
assez
large
important.
group. The stag is
Il est
happy
content.
because
Il est content
now
parce
they
qu'il a un
have an
appétit
excessive
sexuel
sexual
démesuré.
appetite.
Quand il arrive
When
sur
he
cette belle
arrives in this
clairière
beautiful
avec les couleurs
clearing with this group of
d'automne, et ce
females,
groupe de
he's
femelles,
in
il arrive
heaven.
au paradis.
In
En
reality,
réalité,
it's
ça
more
ressemble
like
à
hell.
l'enfer.
Since
qu'au
in the middle
milieu
of
de
this
ce paradis, il y a
paradise,
déjà un mâle
there's already a
énorme
huge
qui a
male
pris
who's
position,
taken
on
up
l'appelle le
position
maître
as
de
the master of the place.
Les femelles sont inaccessibles.
The females
Car
are
ce
inaccessible.
monstre de puissance
This
est là,
mighty bear moss is
très
there,
excité,
very
très
excited,
énervé, très
very
puissant,
angry,
très impressionnant.
very powerful,
Donc,
very
malgré
impressive.
l'excitation que je peux ressentir, je vais d'abord ce qu'on
The
appelle
females
satelliser
become the
autour de ces
focus of
femelles, elles vont
interest.
devenir vraiment mon centre d'intérêt. Et puis pendant que je me satellise, pendant que je tourne,
And I
pendant
see
que je
other
croise
males
d'autres
prowling
mâles
around
qui attendent
these
leur
same
heure, qui
females,
attendent le moment, qui attendent la
waiting for the
possibilité
opportunity
peut-être
to
de
jostle
bousculer
the
la
hierarchy
ou de
or
pouvoir
to mate
quand même
with
à
a
un moment ou
female.
à un autre saillir une femelle.
Autumn is well underway, and the excitement is at its height for both large males and the younger ones. The smell of the females in heat has spread through the forest. It is finally time for rutting, and it will be short. The bellowing challenges are multiplying, but there will only be one chosen one. The others are condemned to bellow without ever mating, unless they cheat. The master of all the place seems to have been appointed. He parades in the middle of the herd, proudly displaying his antlers. Nature knows what she's doing. She selects the strongest male to ensure the strongest possible offspring. But he hasn't won yet, because other stags are lusting after the herd. The opponents are measuring each other up. Only the strongest have a chance to defeat the dominant male and win the exclusive privilege of mating with females. A male of the same age and power challenges the dominant one to a duel. Once again, it was the dominant one who won. The challenger will have to wait till next year to try his luck again. As for the males, exhausted by the ordeal of the bellowing season, they return to their solitude. They've lost a lot of weight, but now they can start eating again. And above all, they'll sleep, and sleep some more, to get their health back. This is how life goes in our forests, where the same rituals are repeated indefinitely. Among its dark copses, we can find gems. It's also surprising to hear animals without seeing them. They're smart as elves, not demons. The forest is a benign space. We can enter without fear. It has no trolls, no devils, no hungry wolves. Only creatures that are like it. Beautiful and wild.